Let's get started this evening. First up on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance, and Mr. Buckler has the pledge tonight.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Craig Buckler, and I am the principal at Center Grove Elementary, and it is my pleasure to introduce Ellie Mae Shepherd to lead our Pledge of Allegiance for this evening's meeting. I have just a couple things to share about her before we let her jump into it. Ellie is the daughter of Samantha Harper, who's here this evening, and is a fifth grader in Mrs. Woodhouse's class. Ellie is an outstanding student at CGS, and in January was nominated by her teacher for the Knight in Shining Armor Award to recognize her positive attitude. At school, Ellie is a member of the ukulele club and the choir. She is also a member of the student safety team, who's meeting tomorrow with Mrs. Rawlings. Ellie is the lead catcher on her travel softball team, and in her free time she likes to paint. She is hardworking and responsible, and she always has a smile on her face and brings joy to everyone around her. I am proud to have her represent Center Grove Elementary School this evening.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ellie, if you'd come up this way.
Thank you. All right. Next up, adoption of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
Mr. President, go ahead. Mr. President, I move we adopt the agenda. I second as presented.
Gary, second.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Next up this evening is recognitions. Oh. Sorry, I was getting a look from Mrs. Counts. And Mrs. McMahon is going to introduce our rising stars.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm an assistant principal at Center Grove High School. It's my pleasure tonight to introduce our Rising Stars for Center Grove High School. Rising Stars of Indiana is a non-competitive recognition program designed to honor high school juniors for their academic achievements. Each Indiana high school was invited to recognize up to 4 students in the 11th grade based on their current academic achievement. By allowing schools to identify outstanding scholars during their junior year, IASP hopes to increase their visibility and scholarship opportunities. It is my pleasure to introduce Center Grove's 4 Rising Stars. Arav Agrawal, come on up please, and we'll give you your certificate. Ellen Wynn, Lillian Spite, and Taylor Wirt. We're very proud of these students for their accomplishments.
Next up for recognitions is Mrs. Rodman for our Indiana Statehood Day Essay Contest winner. We have a student who placed second place from Sugar
Yes.
Grove.
Did you know that this year on December 11th, Indiana celebrated its 206th birthday? If you didn't know that, ask a fourth grader. They spend a lot of time each year learning all about Indiana's history. And part of that, there is a Indiana Statehood Day essay contest that our fourth graders are encouraged but not required to participate in. In the state of Indiana this year, there were 1,200 applicants that wrote an essay centered around the theme of living in Indiana. Because there were so many applicants, they actually narrowed that down to 108. At Sugar Grove, we had 30 that participated. In that initial 108, there were 8 in Johnson County, 6 of those from Sugar Grove. So out of that 108, they then picked their winners. And we are very honored to have Nora Jansen, whose essay won second place in the Indiana Statehood Essay Contest out of 1,200 entries, which is an awesome honor. So not only did this allow her and her family to be able to attend the State House for a special recognition on December the 12th, but her entire class got to join. So Mrs. Franklin and the entire class was able to attend. They got a special tour of the State House and just really got an opportunity to celebrate Nora for her accomplishments. It was really neat when we got to find out when Mrs. Franklin announced to the class that Nora had won. The tears of joy of the students in that room, it was just really cool to see the excitement for everybody. So Nora's gonna take a minute and read her second place essay for everybody.
Awesome. Fantastic.
Hello, my name is Nora Jansen, and I am a student in Miss Franklin's 4th grade class at Sugar Grove Elementary. My essay today is called Indiana's Food. Whether you are in your home or in a different state, you have to appreciate the food of Indiana. On any night, corn, pork tenderloin, or sugar cream pie can sound so good. You can go to state fairs and get salty and buttery corn, the Indiana famous pork tenderloin sandwich, or the Hoosier sugar cream pie for dessert. There are 5.27 million acres of cornfields in Indiana. I love looking at my great-grandpa's cornfields. He says he loved working with them. The fields are a beautiful sea of green stalks. The buttery, juicy, and salty corn on the cob is the most delicious side dish for a 4th of July dinner. The pork tenderloin sandwich is one of Indiana's most famous dishes. The beautifully breaded sandwich is perfect for any night with your family. I love watching my family make the tenderloin just right with the perfect outside. My grandma makes the best pork tenderloin ever. It is so much better when you make it yourself, though. You can get lettuce, onions, and ketchup on your sandwich as well. Lastly, the official state pie of Indiana is the sugar cream pie. I wanted to know what it tasted like, so my grandma and I made it together. It is so buttery and rich. The filling is more of a pudding, but the taste is delicious. This pie creates nostalgia for every person that eats it. I will definitely have it again. These are some of the best foods of Indiana. If you haven't tried buttery corn, the crispy pork tenderloin, or rich and buttery sugar cream pie, you should try them. They might become some of your favorites too. Thank you.
And Nora, you'll be happy to know I had a tenderloin for lunch. Nice job. Oh, hang on, they want my picture. I bet that's mom, right? No, thank you. All done. I did, had tenderloin for lunch. All right, next up for recognitions, Mrs. Fisher is going to recognize the girls' high school golf team.
Thank you. Anyone else hungry after that essay? Yeah, that was a very nice essay. Good job to that young lady. I'm Katie Fisher, Assistant AD at the high school, and it is my honor and privilege to be here tonight and to introduce our head girls golf coach, Mr. Cale Hoover, as he brags a little bit about his team and the awesome season they had. Yeah. Yeah.
Might not get the mic back.
That's
Kale, there's a 3-minute limit.
Yeah, 3-minute limit, Cale.
I'll make it quick. We have another meeting that a couple of us have to go to. Thank you for having us. Outstanding season. We got off to a bit of a rough start early, But we have a really short season too, so it was really important that we kind of got things headed in the right direction. Highlights, we won the Johnson County Tournament, won the Bloomington North Invitational, and then sectional regional, and finished as state runner-up. We had to lead after the first day of state and weren't able to hang on to that, but a wonderful season. We have four of the 5 players here, and 4 of those 5 will be coming back next year, so maybe we can come back with the bigger trophy next year. So do you want me to do the introductions too? Okay, I'll go in order. So Rowan Feifel, Jr., Abby Rich, Jr., Sage Parsetich, who's a senior, and Camille Short, who's a junior. And then Lexi Stewart was our 5th player. She's also a junior. She wasn't able to attend tonight.
So as everybody can see with the recognitions tonight, we've got quite a array of talented students, whether it's academically, athletically. Very impressed with the young 4th grader who stood up in front of everybody and read her essay. So I might have to have another pork tenderloin before I call it a night after that. All right, next up, reports. We have a report from the Teacher Retention Committee work. Mrs. Nelson.
Well, good evening. Thank you for allowing me to talk about the great work that our started out as a retention committee has done over the course of the school year. We formed this committee back in August to really look at retention as we were looking at data not only in our district but across our nation and what is happening in education right now. So I want to kind of give you some background. Our work is really done looking at John Hattie's work, and we know that the new #1 influence is that student achievement really starts with that collective teacher efficacy. And if we don't have a great group of teachers, we are not going to see student achievement. And that's not only academically, but also personally, socially, and emotionally. Up here on the screen, you are going to see 2021-2022 exit data from teachers who left our corporation starting in August of 2021 to July of 2022. You can see that quite a few are leaving education altogether. Others were, of course, retirement, moving out of state, and mental health was a big part of that exit data as well. So as we went through this data and looked at, and I'll talk a little bit more about that background, we did put a timeline in place because we wanted to put a task force together. We wanted to be in partnership with our teachers to see what really was it that why teachers were leaving the corporation, but also education in general. So as of right now, we've been able to meet 4 times over the course of the school year. Of course, it will be 6 times because this is just the mid-year update, and we do still have quite a bit of conversations and work to do. In our summer 2022 exit interview data, I was able to sit down and speak with those teachers who did leave our corporation. And it was also qualitative and quantitative through a survey. It came down to 5 different areas. The reasons why they were leaving us is because of collegial working conditions in the schools. They also wanted to look at restructure of pay and benefits, teacher mentoring programs, and then also looking at the professionalism and support that they're getting, not only within the schools, but also through our White River Township community. Looking at that data, the task force was formed in August of 2022. We had 27 certified staff members. We actually had over 70 certified staff members that wanted to be a part of the committee, but we needed to pare it down, and so 27 were on that committee, as well as 2 district administrators. Up here on the screen, you're going to see the different topics that we were looking at, and that was working conditions, professionalism and support, and then that financial needs. All of these items over to the side, the influence items, were kind of those side categories that we were looking at as well. Our collective bargaining and benefits committee, which is head up by our UTAG, also working with our district committee with Mr. Taylor and Dr. Arkanoff and myself. We wanted to make sure that when we talked about collective bargaining, and especially with the payment or restructure of pay and benefits, that was inclusive to that space. And so our work was parallel and in tandem with the collective bargaining talks that were going on in August, September, November, December, and of course into January. When you look at that, these are the 4 areas that we focused on, and that was the collegial working conditions. We wanted to look at leadership roles, recruitment efforts, and teacher mentoring. And that's where our teacher retention committee turned into teacher recruitment, retention, and recognition, because all of that came out of the survey data that we were looking at with our current teachers on that committee. When we looked at the current task force data, and again, we took this from our teachers that are still in our classrooms right now, the recruitment part was the community reputation, salary and benefits came through that as well. And then that national and local PR when it comes to being in the classroom, and then education in general. In retention, the group wanted to look at workload. They wanted to look at subs, how those are being used and supported throughout our schools, that morale and that collegial team building and mentoring. And then recognition, we have wonderful PTOs and wonderful parents who recognize our teachers throughout the year. But what can we do to make sure we have year-long recognition programs and it's just not inclusive to 1 week in May? So our team developed these pipelines for improvement. The teachers were the ones that narrowed those pipelines into these 3 areas, and then also looking at these more focus areas under each one, and I'm going to talk just a little bit about that tonight. So in recruitment, we have a wonderful community who our teachers pour their hearts and their soul and their life into these students every day, and that was evident tonight when we are looking at the beautiful writing that came from a 4th grader, wonderful academic programs, and then also our academic programs, so that we need to make sure that we are growing our own. And so we are going to actually implement, just like our athletics do, we're going to have a CG Future Teacher signing ceremony coming up in May. And as of right now, we have 15 seniors that are going to be going into education. And so we're hoping that we can get them back here into our school buildings because we know that their hearts are within this community as well. Another possible solution, and something that we are working on right now, is we have some strong partnerships with local universities and programs, but we are building that up as we speak to market our CGC Center Grove roles to teacher candidates. And that is getting into those classes, talking to future educators, telling them about the great things that our corporation has, but also supporting them with just the job search in general. Also with recruitment is student teachers. We are fortunate to be a place where student teachers from Central Indiana schools want to come and learn from the best, because we do have a wonderful teaching staff. And so welcoming those student teachers into Center Grove, our HR department has been pushing out to them and having meetings with them, going in and observing, helping with resumes, and just where they're at in their job search, hoping to keep them within our school buildings and identifying those strong student teachers. Another recruitment possible solution that the team talked about was just marketing CG. Again, we are looking at partnerships more with our universities. Stacy Conrad has done a great job getting video series out there about what makes our schools great and our teachers great. We are in talks with some of our cadet teachers to do a future teacher camp possibly, we would look at student leaders from 3rd grade to 8th grade and just kind of teach them about what it's like to be a teacher in the classroom. And then looking at a career pathway maybe for education, starting that career conversation earlier at the middle school level. Must pause there. Any questions about recruitment stuff that's going on?
And we had a internal recruiting fair this week.
We did, yes. So we had a recruitment fair last night. We had 102 job positions filled, like for them to interview, and it ended up being 91 that showed up for the career fair last night and definitely interviewed. So see, we had some great candidates. So retention challenges, again, came with substitute teachers, and I have to give a shout out to Michelle Sheely in our HR department. She has done a wonderful job of going out and seeking out the best substitutes that we have. Our possible solutions that we came up with at the retention committee and task force, she's been able to bring it to fruition. And so back in November, we celebrated our subs with National Substitute Day. We've been able to incorporate them more by, making sure that they feel like they're a part of our CG staff family. They are receiving a monthly newsletter. We're giving out surveys just so that we can make sure that their experience with our schools is positive. We've increased sub pay, so we are one of the highest, if not highest, in the county right now, and then also giving sub-incentive bonuses. So we're hoping, doing those 5 things, that we'll be able to fill those classrooms so that our teachers are not as stressed when they don't have a sub in their room, or when our aides are out sick, and so we don't have to pull them to cover somebody else. Another retention that we're looking at in recruitment is that teacher onboarding process that comes down to that collegial mentoring. Our instructional coaches do a great job meeting with our new teachers, but we definitely want to come up with a coaching calendar and kind of we've got great mentors, but make that mentor program, take it a step up. As they support new teachers not only during the first year, but also the second year. And we heard that a lot in the feedback, is they felt like they had a good mentor the first year, and then they got to the second year, and they just didn't have the collegial or the mentorship that they needed. We're also looking at the workload, and I know we hear that a lot. There's a lot that teachers have to do outside of the non-instructional day that they could be using for planning, and also looking at great practices that they could use not only in their classroom but across their grade level and their school. And so this group right now, and we're in the middle of that, is looking at what we can do to lessen the workload and create more time for our teachers to plan and be together. And then recognition, the team came up with some again, wonderful ideas on what we can do, and we're hoping to implement these during the 23-24 school year with the help of our community as well, just monthly and yearly morale boosters for our school and districts so that we make sure that they leave every day feeling loved and respected when they're in their classroom. So our mid-year summary, again, we still have a couple more times that we're going to be meeting. What this team has generated looking at data, also getting feedback from current teachers in the classroom, is that we need teachers that are effective, but they also need to feel supported by our district and our community. And also, we want to make sure that we're growing our own teachers, because we have some great people that live here that we know would do wonderful in our classrooms with our students. And we're also being very proactive right now, just in our retainment efforts, so that we can support our teachers. Any questions?
Any questions or, I guess more of a couple of comments than I have questions. So a couple things for everybody to understand. If they ask why the committee did not focus on pay and benefits, those are really bound by the collective bargaining laws in the state of Indiana and can't really be talked about outside of those parameters that are set forth by the state. As the board approved in January, Mr. Daniels and I will continue our roles on the collective bargaining team, and we have begun talking about that process with our internal team. That's what we spent some time talking with the board about today during our executive session, and we're starting that process earlier than we have ever done before. And the results of the teacher retention, hang on, I've got to get the whole committee
I
name
know.
right. You gave me a mouthful to say. Recruit, retain, and
And recognize.
recognize.
Yeah.
Thank you. The 3 R's, R cubed,
Yeah.
is very important as we have those conversations and begin, the conversations as a board, for how can we correctly and adequately recognize our teachers. So I look forward to the additional recommendations from the committee, and it sounds like at least we have a good path forward, and please thank the 27 on the committee currently for all their hard work on
Yep.
behalf of the board.
Thank you. Yes, they've done a wonderful job. I've been honored to lead this group. And they've come up, and we've had some really great conversations. So wish everybody could have been at the table, but we'll report back to you in a couple months on our final report.
Fantastic.
Nice job on the fair, too.
Oh, yeah, it was great.
Yes.
That was a collective effort. That wasn't me. That was everybody. So I've got to give a shout out. I don't even know if they're looking tonight, but shout out to the HR department. They did great. So it was a lot of fun, and thank you to our admin, because I know they put a lot of time in after school to interview and make sure that we do have the best and the brightest in front of our students every day.
Well,
That
I
was
mean-
close to double what we had last year, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah.
Yep, it sure was. So
And I'm excited, here we are in February, and we're already starting that recruitment process, so it's,
yep,
the earlier we can start that, the better off we are.
yep. And we had some great candidates. So it's positive. So
Thank
thank
you.
Thank you. Sorry, I turned my mic off. All right, next up is public comments. Just a reminder, each person who has signed up for to speak to the board via public comments has 3 minutes in which to do so. Mr. Daniels will be the timer this evening. Just a reminder for everyone, please direct all comments to the presiding officer of the board. And please make sure all comments are exclude names and all those kinds of fun things as our normal rules. First up this evening is Angie Langman. Wants to talk about the start time survey. And can you state your name and address for us, please?
Yes, sir. My name is Angie Langman, 5753 Somerset Boulevard, Bargersville, 46106.
And Angie, I'll give you about a 30-second warning when,
Okay, good.
so, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Angie Langman, and I have 2 daughters at Center Grove Middle School Central. I'm an active PTO and participant volunteer at the school for various activities and events. Tonight, I am representing a large group of concerned Center Grove School District parents who share the same opinion on extending the start time for our middle school and high school students. Our group has reviewed and discussed countless sleep studies on vital importance of proper levels of sleep for teens and tweens. At the end of the day, we are not sleep experts. With this in mind, please remember that I am borrowing heavily on a talk by sleep researcher Dr. Wendy Trexel. Dr. Wendy Trexel, PhD, is an internationally recognized sleep expert. She is a licensed clinical psychologist and a certified behavioral sleep medicine specialist. In her TED Talk, Dr. Trexel highlights the research that solidifies the importance of sleep and the consequences of sleep loss. I know that I'm depriving my children of sleep that they desperately need as rapidly growing teenagers. I also know that by waking them up in the hours before their natural biological clock tells them they are ready, that I'm literally robbing them of their dreams. The type of sleep that most associated with learning, memory consolidation, and emotional processing. But it's not just my children that are being deprived of sleep. Sleep deprivation among American teenagers is an epidemic. Only about 1 in 10 get the 8 to 10 hours of sleep per night recommended by the sleep scientists and pediatricians. Now, I know you're thinking, shoo, you're doing good. My kids get at least 8 hours. Remember, 8 hours is the minimum. You're barely passing. 8 hours is like getting a C on your report card. There are many factors contributing to the epidemic, but a major factor preventing teens from getting sleep they need is actually a matter of public policy. No hormones, social lives, or Snapchat. Across the country, many schools are starting around 7:30 or earlier, despite the fact major medical organizations recommend that middle school and high school start no later than 8:30 a.m. These early start policies have a direct effect on how much or how little our American teenagers are getting. They are also pitting teenagers and their parents in a fundamentally unwinnable fight against their own bodies. Around the time of puberty, teenagers experience a delay in the biological clock, which determines when they feel most awake and when they feel most sleepy. This is driven in part by a shift of the release of the hormone melatonin. Teenage bodies wait to release the melatonin around 11 p.m. This is 2 hours later than we see in adults and younger children.
30
This means that
seconds.
waking up teenagers at 6 a.m. is the biological equivalent of waking up at 4 a.m. On the unfortunate days I wake up at 4 a.m., I'm a zombie, functionally useless, and I cannot think straight. Probably shouldn't be driving a car, and this is how American teenagers feel every day. In fact, many of them, they say, are unpleasant characteristics we chalk up to being a teenager. Moodiness, irritability, laziness, depression could be a product of chronic sleep deprivation. And now, I will turn this over to April McCracken.
3 minutes on the spot, by the way.
Thank you, Mrs.
Job.
Thank you, Mrs. Langman. Next, signed up to speak was April McCracken. Can you state your?
April McCracken, 4083 Brockton Manor North Drive. All right, going on with Dr. Troxel's information, for many teens battling chronic sleep loss, their go-to strategy is to compensate with caffeine. So they have lots of coffee drinks, energy drinks, and we now have an entire population of tired but wired youth. She goes on to say that advocates of sleep-friendly start times know that adolescence is a period of dramatic brain development, particularly in the parts of the brain that are responsible for those higher order thinking processes, like reasoning, problem solving, and good judgment. So in other words, the very type of brain activity that's responsible for reining in those impulsive and often risky behaviors that are so characteristic of our teenagers. They know that, like the rest of us, when teenagers don't get the sleep they need, their brains, their bodies, and behaviors suffer with both immediate and lasting effects. They can't concentrate, their attention plummets, and many will even show behavioral signs that mimic ADHD. And they are more likely to make bad decisions in this time of life. The consequences of teen sleep loss go beyond the classroom, contributing to many of the mental health problems that skyrocket during adolescence, including substance use, depression, and suicide. In one study that Dr. Troxel's team did, they found that teens with sleep problems were 55% higher, more likely to have used alcohol in the past month. In another study with over 30,000 high school students, they found that for each hour of lost sleep, there was a 38% increase in feeling sad or hopeless, and a 58% increase in teen suicide attempts. And if that's not enough, teens who skip out on sleep are at an increased risk for a host of physical health problems that are plaguing our country, like obesity, heart disease, and diabetes. So then there's the risk of putting the sleep-deprived teen with a new driver's license behind the wheel of the car, and that's never good. Studies have shown that getting 5 hours or less of sleep per night is the equivalent of driving with a blood alcohol content above the legal limit. Advocates of sleep-friendly start times and researchers in this area have produced tremendous science showing the tremendous benefit of later school start times. And the findings are unequivocal. We've put a lot of it, I know you've put a lot of it on the website if anybody is interested in looking at all of that. It is a best practice to give teenagers enough sleep to be productive in our classrooms.
Thank you, Mrs. McCracken. Next up to speak is Mr. John Langman.
Thank you. My name is John Langman, and Angie Langman is my boss. And so I'm going to present the third part of our three-part series here on the later start time studies that we've been able to research on our own. Teens from districts with later start times, well, they get more sleep. To the naysayers who may say that if school starts later, teens will just stay up later, the truth is their bedtimes stay the same, but their wake-up times get extended, resulting in more sleep. They're more likely to show up for school. School absences drop 25% in one district, and they're less likely to drop out. Not surprisingly, they do better academically as well. So this has real implications for reducing the achievement gap. Standardized test scores in math and reading go up by 2 to 3 percentage points. That's as powerful as reducing class sizes by 1/3 fewer students. Their mental and physical health improves, and even their families are happier. I mean, who wouldn't enjoy a little more pleasantness from our teens and a little less crankiness? Even their communities are safer because car crash rates go down, 70% in one district. Given these tremendous benefits, you might think, well, this is a no-brainer, right? So why have we as a society failed to heed this call? Often the argument against later start times goes something like this. Why should we delay start times for teenagers? We need to toughen them up so they're ready for the real world. That's like saying to a parent of a 2-year-old, don't let Johnny nap or he won't be ready for kindergarten. Delaying start times also presents many logistical challenges, not just for students and their families, but for communities as a whole. Updating bus routes, increased transportation costs, impact on sports, care before or after school. These are the same concerns that come up in district after district, time and again around the country as school start times are debated. And they're legitimate concerns, but these are problems we have to work through. They're not valid excuses for failing to do the right thing for our children, which is to start middle and high schools no earlier than 8:30 a.m. And in districts around the country, big and small, who have made this change, they found that these fears are often unfounded and far outweighed by the tremendous benefits for students' health and performance and our collective public safety. Think about the tremendous power of sleep, and think about what a gift it would be for our children to be able to wake up naturally in harmony with their own biology. In closing, we want to thank you for the opportunity to express our opinions on this vital issue. Good night.
Thank you, Mr. Langman. All right. Next up is the consent agenda, item 7.
Thank you. This evening, I'm recommending the board approve the consent agenda as presented.
Mr. President, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to ask for a motion. Mr. Daniels, go ahead.
Mr. President, I move that we adopt the consent agenda as presented.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions on the consent agenda this evening? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. This evening, we had about eight retirements this evening. I don't know if you want to list them all, but we really do want to thank them for their many years of service to the district. And I don't know if anybody's with us tonight. Not? No? Okay. But that's a big loss for the district. But, you know, when you get to that point where you want to retire, it's time. So we wish them well.
Thank you, Dr. Arkanoff. Next up, 8.1, 1028, preliminary determination hearing for the Wellness Center construction and multi-facility construction renovation improvement projects. And I will turn this over to Dr. Arkanoff.
Thank you. This evening's board meeting has been appropriately advertised as a 1028 preliminary determination hearing. So with that, Dr. Long will present some information and Mr. Taylor as well. So let's see. I think we
You need to turn it over to me.
Over to you to go ahead and open up the meeting.
I was gonna say, hang on a minute, you read my part.
I did. Oh. Okay.
All right,
Put some cues out there.
yep, sorry. Oh, no, this did say this. Okay, I now open this public hearing. I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Long and Mr. Taylor to present the project, the financing of the project, and the actions we're taking this evening.
Thank you. Thank you, go ahead. Tonight, we're going to talk about two of the major projects. One is a wellness center for our employees. We're currently in the old house. If you're old, like Mr. Robinson and I, it was Coach Moore's house when he first moved here. We're looking we've kind of outgrown that, so we're looking at building a new wellness center that would also have a fitness component to it for our employees. We'll expand it to make it a little bit larger, and you can see by the red dot there on the west side of the high school is our proposed location. The other facility that we're talking about with the yellow star is a building for the girls softball team and the boys and girls golf team, which we just had here tonight. It's just really basically a pole barn building that we're going to have to give them a place to continue to practice indoor, similar to what the baseball team has just directly south of that. Go ahead. I talked just a little bit about it. We'll have some mental health consultation rooms, some dedicated space for physical therapy, really some just better overall patient privacy, better insulated walls and everything, so people feel comfortable in there talking about their needs. Our goal is obviously, and Ms. Nelson talked about it a little bit, sorry, Dr. Nelson, about our trying to retain and attract teachers and employees. We feel like having an improved fitness center and a classroom for other fitness classes is a positive for all of our teachers, and you know, it's one of the things that Dr. Nelson talks about when she goes out and talks to potential candidates. They want to know whether or not we have things like this. Our other goal is to have an outdoor walking path to promote fitness for anybody in the community to come and walk around that and have a location to do that. The nice thing is, and Mr. Taylor will talk about it a little bit later, is that we can do this project with while we're maintaining the current tax rate. Go ahead. So that's the architect's conceptual drawing of what the facility will look like. Really fits in nicely with the main campus, what we're trying to do with the entire campus here. Go ahead. So you can just see there's kind of a floor plan that we've laid out. On the left-hand side is the fitness space, and the workout area are in the classroom instructional space. And then on the right-hand side are the 3 exam rooms, space for storage and doctor's office, and then some mental health provider space as well. So the hitting facility, we talked a little bit about. It's a multi-use. Gosh, I'm not that fast. That's all right. Trying to speed me up here. I'm like, let's go here. So we'll have space for the softball team to have 3 hitting cages, 3 bays for the boys and girls golf team, where they'll be able to be in there year round to work out. The same with the softball team. Again, it's a great project because it helps. It's good for lots of kids, and we can do it while maintaining the current tax rate. So and that's a kind of an artist or the architect's rendition of what that could look like too. And the floor plan on the right-hand side are the open hitting space for the softball team to either hit or throw or in there. And then on the left-hand side is the hitting bays. We'll have bathrooms in there, but we won't have locker rooms, and we'll have office space for the coaches if they want to talk one-on-one with their players. as well. So, thanks. That's it.
Great job, Dr. Long, thank you. I just want to add one thing before we go to the project financing. The space for physical therapy, that is one of our largest reoccurring expenses in our health plan. And by offering that through our clinic, it'll be something we're able to offer at a much lower cost. We are already working with community health to discuss staffing that position, probably with even some of our existing PT people to help our students. So it'd be a great way to offer that and bring down those health plan costs. So as we move into the money part of this, I just want to share, so this is, these are two projects. Go ahead, Ms. Howard, to the next slide. Two separate building projects, and they're going to have two different bonds that are attached to them. For the sizing of the bonds, we've positioned these to be right at the limit allowed so that we could ensure that we could get some of these other projects off our list as well. Dr. Long shared the two major building projects that are attached to these bonds, but there are some other things we're going to do with this money that we want to take note of. We have been studying the concept of purchasing our school buses out of bonds. We've done this since 2009 for our technology and maintenance hardware. Something we had to do back then when the funding changed locally, and frankly, our operations fund couldn't support our technology and maintenance equipment. But we are hitting another limit where it is very difficult for our operations fund to support everything that we need to take out of that. That includes bus drivers, custodial staff, the purchase of school buses, all of our utility bills. All those things are increasing. And frankly, our tax rate in that fund is not keeping up. And so this is an area that we've identified as we could purchase a portion of our school buses out of these bonds, much like we did. It's a way to keep sustaining and keeping up with what we need to get done. And so that's listed up there. And then some extra, just the soft costs, loose furnishings of these spaces are included in both bonds. And then in the second series there, Series 2023C, we also have identified that the turf on the varsity football field is reaching its end of usable life, and so that will be included in that. That's one we're also still searching for outside sponsors on, and that could change. It could stay the same, but we wanted to make sure it was funded. We do need to tear down and raise the old Maple Grove building, now the PRC, now the Academy. It's had a few different names. But it will finally be raised. That is to make room for expansion of the high school, parking, staging for construction as we build the new academic pavilion. There is also a possibility of a stoplight at Pennington and Morgantown, something we've been looking at it from a safety perspective that we'd like to try to fit into these bonds. And then again, just miscellaneous soft costs, facility improvements, land acquisition if needed, just kind of a catch-all category of if there's anything remaining. These bonds will be paid off in a shorter period of time. This isn't a typical 20-year building lease on these. I believe the first one's sized at about 6 years and the second one at 7 or 8. So these will be paid back pretty quickly, which will help us keep that interest cost down as well. I believe, I've got a couple other supporting slides. Ms. Howard, if you can go to the next one. Just to kind of show and remind what we said earlier on the slide, that this is not an increase to the tax rate. The board's been very diligent in maintaining that level tax rate since 2009. You'll see for 2023, it landed at $1.02, which is still 2 cents lower than our tax rate was in 2009. These projects are factored into that and looking towards the future. And then the next slide shows how our tax rate compares in the county. And Edinburgh Schools passed an operating referendum this last election, and they've now moved back above us. And so Center Grove is at that $1.02, positioned 4th in the county. And really the three above us all have operating referendums which push them up over that, or they've had very large building projects to keep their tax rate that much higher. So get a good bang for your buck here in White River Township and Center Grove Schools, and we like to show that, and that we're trying to be fiscally responsible but still adding these facilities that our students and employees need. And real quick, the last slide is just a schedule. We do plan tonight's the first hearing on this. There will be a second hearing in April where the board will actually take action. At that time, we'd ask for an additional appropriations to spend the money out of the bonds that are being approved. Dr. Long would get bids submitted for board approval as early as May. We'd begin work in the summer, and we'd make our first payments in tax year 2025. And on our last slide, this is a public hearing, and therefore there is public comment allowed. And Mr. Alexander, I'll turn that back over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. This is the appropriate time for members of the public to comment on the Wellness Center construction and multi-facility construction renovation improvement projects and the information presented this evening. Are there members of the public who would like to comment? And if anybody would like to comment, please come to the podium and
I just have a quick question. Will teachers have to pay for using the fitness area?
the Wellness Center.
Yeah, the wellness center?
Not currently. However, if we have like custom specialized classes taught by an outside instructor, that's something that we'd look at. We've actually visited some other school corporations. That was the model they used, but the equipment itself would be available.
Good, because I would think that would be really bad.
Yeah, just if we've got some outside instructor costs. And that's still fluid. We're still talking about it.
Mr. Poor.
Hi, hello, Keith Poor, 5186 Cave Court, Greenwood. This is news to the taxpayers of the county that we're going to spend $12 million here approximately on another facility. I think it's from this report that we just received from the teachers that you had tonight, I don't see that this will support that report at all. I think it's $12 million that will be spent on a facility that very few will take use of. And if you tell me that 100% of the teachers will be over there all the time and use it, then it might be worth it. The softball hitting area, I thought we just built a activity or another gymnasium. I call it a gymnasium. I can't recall what the official word is to do this. Now, we have facilities and time in the school right now. We have weight rooms, we have the pool, we have other facilities for them teachers to take advantage of, to use. So why do we need to spend $12 million? If our township would get rid of the debt that we are paying almost 60% of our tax dollar for. We're paying over 60% of the tax dollar, approximately, let's say, 60% of the tax dollar to pay for the bonds. If we got rid of some of that, then we would have money to buy buses. We would have money to do the other things that we need to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Poor. Any other members of the public? Sure.
Sorry, I should never come to these meetings. I have another question. With the golf bays, would they be open to the public for rent? Not that I care about that, but I'm just wondering.
Talked about that.
I mean, that would be a
Sorry, I'm looking at
moneymaker.
Dr. Long. I don't.
We haven't talked about it, but I doubt it just because of the cost and being able to operate those. We wouldn't have anybody in there to operate the equipment that they're gonna use.
Okay.
So
Well, that might be an idea for fundraising.
There you go.
Valid point.
I think the golf coaches have thought about that.
All right, any other questions or comments on the bonds? Okay, I now close this public hearing. Are there any board members who have any comments or questions? I guess the only one comment I'll make about the Wellness Center, as part of that initiative to talk about teacher retention and those types of things, we are self-insured. And one of the ways we keep our insurance costs down is by providing those medical facilities on our campus for the teachers to go to during the day. And as our staff has grown, we have outgrown the current wellness center that we have, and for some patient privacy types of things, it's not the best equipped and well suited for being able to have those private conversations, as I understand it from sitting in on the insurance committee meetings. It is something that is available to all staff members and their family who are on our insurance plan. And we encourage them to take use of that because it helps reduce our insurance costs. And if the teachers can stay on campus, it also helps us reduce the amount of time they're out of the classroom. So unfortunately, as we grow, and we've grown a number of staff who use that facility, we've outgrown the current one, so.
Mr. Alexander, just, I don't remember the exact number, but we utilize the current wellness center at almost a 90% rate.
That sounds
So
about right.
it's
That's what I heard
it's something
last.
close to that. So our teachers are utilizing it.
And it's also where they get a lot of their prescriptions taken care of and those types of things, so.
Yeah, I think it's, the important thing is it's multifaceted. Everything that it's going to do is really important. Just like that equipment there, I mean, that's going to be a big use too of the physical therapists will probably use that as well when they're providing physical therapy too.
Any other questions? No action required this evening. We'll take action in March. Is that correct? April. Sorry. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Next up, 8.2, take action on bids for Sugar Grove Elementary Phase 2. And Dr. Long.
Thank you. Tonight is a little bit unique. I don't know that I've ever brought a situation like this to the board. Tonight, we're going to ask the board to reject bids 1 through 6 and then accept bids 7 and 8, and I'll explain that a little bit in detail. Tonight, from AECom Hunt, with us is Chad Peters, so Chad's in the back, but on January 12th, we opened bids for Phase 2 for Sugar Grove. Based on the review of these bids, the D-scope meeting, and the project budget, we are recommending the rejection of the following bidders listed below. The bid packet 1 for general trades, bid packet 2 for structural steel, bid packet 3 for roofing, bid packet 4 for mechanical and plumbing, bid packet 5 for fire protection, and bid packet 6 for electrical and lighting. The reason why is this came in over our budget. And so we're doing some value engineering that would allow us to still get what we want out of the building, but bring it back to within cost. However, we're asking the board to approve the bids for bid packet 7, the access control and security to ERS Wireless in the amount of $268,195.30. And bid packet 8, kitchen equipment to C&T Design and Equipment Company in the amount of $647,360. Mainly, this is due to escalating costs. Even as we're doing the D-scope meeting, the cost of the equipment and the ability to get some of the security equipment in kept going farther and farther out. Those prices won't get any better. In fact, we stood the risk of them going up, and the value engineering we were doing with the rest of the project did not impact what the kitchen equipment that we needed and the access control and security. So we're recommending the board approve those 2 bids, bid packet 7 and bid packet 8. As I mentioned, we've been working with the architect and AECom Hunt to value engineer the project to get it within budget. Our goal is to rebid the project and open bids on April 4th and have the board approve them at the April board meeting and start construction in May. What's really critical about this is because of the work, we need 2 summers to do that, so that's why we're pushing the architect to turn around the drawings fast enough that we have 1 summer in the administrative area to do, and then the other summer we'll spend getting the rest of the classrooms in place. But that's our recommendation. I do know that's a little different than what I've typically brought, but times they are changing.
Well, first, I guess I thank the folks from Hunt and Bill, you working with them and bringing it to us and telling us that there's ways we can save money and finding that out. How tight are we? I mean, are we going to be able to rebid this and still get it built within those 2 summers? Are we pretty confident of that?
So
On a schedule, is where I'm.
yeah, no, it'll be a couple months later than what we had originally planned. But we met with the architect and with Hunt and did an estimate on what the items were that we were going to value engineer. What we recommended would bring us well below what our budget was. So we feel pretty confident that when we rebid this, we'll hit our budget numbers and still be able to do the work that we wanted to this summer, the areas that need to be done this summer. Chad, am I missing anything? Okay.
Just want to challenge you a little more, Chad. Your job's too easy in building buildings. We just want to condense the schedule the most we can.
Yeah,
And then with 7 and 8, I guess, the ones we're being asked to recommend approval of, are those, I mean, are they going to hold their bids? Are we going to go ahead and buy the materials? What?
We're procuring them. If we can get those approved, we're signing the contracts within tomorrow. We're sending the contracts out.
Okay,
They'll start procuring the equipment. The long lead items like the access control is up to 50 weeks out.
oh, wow,
So it's gonna be, by the time we're ready for it, the material will just be showing up. So
okay.
it's definitely needed at this time, for these, and same way with kitchen equipment. It's really a long lead item, and they do have concerns about escalating prices and this supply.
And some of the security equipment, that if they can get it in, they can start doing that. It's not impacted by the delay. They'll go ahead and do some of that work anyway, yes.
And the scope, especially for access control and kitchen equipment, it didn't change even through the value engineering. So the amount of material it's all equal to what it would be in the new design or another revised design.
So who stores the kitchen equipment? Is it just going to be delivered later? Are they going to store it? Do we have,
The lead time that it will take for some of this equipment, they offered to store it in their warehouse because it's gonna be really close to the time next summer when we would install.
so it's not going to be an issue for us then?
Shouldn't be an issue.
Okay. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Any other questions? Do I have a motion?
Mr. President, I move that we reject bids number 1 through number 6 and accept the bids number 7 and number 8 for Sugar Grove Elementary Phase 2.
Thank you. Do I have a second? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Next up, we're approving a new high school course. Dr. Hoover.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry about that. Each year, the high school makes course requests for proposals to add courses which may be available to students in future years. Typically, these come in the fall because the course books come out this time of year and they're already starting scheduling processes. But as a reminder, during the implementation of next level programs of study, approval for additional courses may be requested in spring and summer as the DOE is pushing out new things all the time. And so this is a response to that. And so what I'm asking tonight is that flexibility and grace you offered back in the fall, here's a new course. So the course requests are vetted through department chairs and the high school admin team. This additional proposal is another course to support those next level programs, and it's in the technology education department. The chart there summarizes the course, the department, and the grade levels of students that this could impact. The description below also provides more details. At this time, this high school would ask and request that you allow them to be able to offer this course for next year. It matches the course descriptions through the IDOE, and the course is in general carpentry. It's an entry-level course. In future years, assuming we have enough students who want to take this in the interest, and we have a great new teacher we've added to that already great department who can teach this course. So hopefully we'll come back next year for round 2 with the next class. So it will be determined on the number of students who want to take that, whether it will be offered. But this gives us the possibility, with your approval, of offering it if there's student interest.
Excellent.
It was one of my favorite classes in high school. I actually built a barn.
Awesome.
Just let you know. You guys can take it too.
Want to come over and help me? All right, any other questions from the board for Dr. Hoover? I'm excited about the class. When I read the description, I'm assuming, from talking with Mr. Warner, there's already quite a bit of interest in the class, so. I just need a motion.
Mr. President, I move that we approve the high school course titled Construction Trades, General Carpentry.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. Do I have a second? I second. Thank you, Mrs. Counts. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
Should we have added an addendum to allow Mrs. Counts to audit the course next year?
I think guest career speaker.
I like that, guest career speaker.
Thank you.
All right, next up, 8.4, approve school start time survey. Dr. Arkanoff.
Thank you, Mr. Alexander. This evening, I just want to recommend to the board approving a survey for all staff, students, and community members on the, including parents, on the start times. As you know, the district has been working for probably 20 years on looking at making this shift on start times. There's much research out there that supports making this change. So committees have been working on this on and off over the last several years. And right before we dealt with COVID, we were leaning and moving in this direction to make a change. The committee that at that time came to the board and laid several options in front of you. The administrative team worked through those options and basically came up with just one, and that is to flip our start times. We believe that's what's best for our students. So what we're going to do and what we're recommending is asking our parents more so about, and our staff more so about the early release time in professional development. So when you look at that survey, you'll see here, we'll collect a little bit of data on who the person is as far as whether a student, a parent, or a staff member and so forth. Then we'll also get the grade level that's impacted. And then finally, we're going to ask them how they are affected by or how important it is to have a 5-day week that has a consistent start time and end time versus having the early release or late start Wednesdays. And so we'll get some feedback with that from all folks. We'll also discuss this with our Teachers Association through our discussion process as well. We will bring this information back to you in March, at the March board meeting for you to see. We'll share it out as well on our website. We do have a Start Times website out there. It's been there for many years, and you can get to that on our main website. If you just go to the homepage and go to I think it's under the hours and calendar area, then you can just drop down. You'll see Start Times as a sub-tab. Much data. I will say this, over the years, as the board knows, it's been a constant recommendation that we make this change. It's what's best for kids. And over the years, all the data has done nothing but make that even more obvious that it is good for kids. And I thank the folks for coming out tonight to kind of share their thoughts on it. So we will we'll start the conversations with all the players involved, and we'll get this data. This survey will probably go out next week.
Any questions for Dr. Arkanoff? I just need a motion.
Mr. President, I move that we approve the school start time survey.
Thank you, Mrs. Counts. Do I have a second?
Second?
I have a motion and a second by Mr. Daniels. All those in favor of approving the school start time survey signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
All right. Our last action item this evening is 8.5. This is a first reading of a revised attendance policy, so there is no action required this evening.
No action required this evening. We're bringing this to your attention tonight because our attendance policy right now has a couple of things in there that we would like to delete, all about virtual learning and COVID-19 related absences. So we think it's time to strike that and get rid of it. So this is first reading. Everything else would stay the same. It matches our handbooks. It would just get rid of those last two paragraphs.
Thank you, Dr. Nelson. Any questions from the board? I mean, we've had this to review. And then after tonight's meeting, this will get posted on the website.
Yes.
Where?
Well, it'll be part of board docs, so it'll be posted in the board doc tonight. Once this meeting's adjourned, it becomes live. Tomorrow, sorry, thank you, yeah. You don't want to stay up all night and do it. No, okay. So tomorrow, she'll get that taken care of, and then the public will be able to see the changes.
All right.
Good.
Awesome, thank you. All right, announcements. March 23rd, 6 PM, we have an executive session in the conference room. March 23rd, we have a regular board meeting at 7 PM. Also on March 23rd, immediately following the board meeting, we're going to do our first Good for the Grove. We'll follow a very similar format that we do for public participation beginning of the board meetings. Members of the community will be given 3 minutes to talk to the board about any topic. Doesn't have to be related to an agenda item. And we'll start with blocking 15 minutes, and if we have more people that want to speak, the board at their discretion, thank you. It's been a long day. The board at their discretion can extend that time, which I suspect we probably will. Next item, July 27th, the executive session and the regular board meeting have been moved to July 20th, and on April 20th meeting, executive regular board session has been moved to April 11th. Both those moves are due to some scheduling conflicts that we didn't anticipate when we set the board meetings back in January. So we will get those posted immediately. Board member comments this evening. Mr. Russell.
I attended this Center Grove Education Foundation meeting. They are planning the gala April 20th. 22nd. They had a very successful trivia night, first time they ran that, and sounds like plans are to do it again next year. And so they're doing a whole lot. And scholarship sign-ups coming up soon.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. Mrs. Couch?
Nope, buy your gala tickets, everyone. I need to see all of you there.
And our Sunday best.
And your Sunday best.
Mr. Robinson, anything this evening?
First of all, I was there at the trivia night, Center Grove Educational Foundation. It was really fun and great turnout. Number 2, blessings in a backpack. I want you to know that it was going to be moved to Sugar Grove. And the neat thing was, with the help of Dr. Long, Jake Short, the assistant principal, and Jeff Henderson at the high school, we were able to keep it blessings in a backpack to be done at the high school. And why that's so important is, when I went over there twice, there were 12 students that would walk over from the high school to put the backpacks together. And I appreciate what they did, because I didn't want to lose that piece of the high school kids helping the elementary kids. So that was a neat thing. And then yesterday, because I'm retired and I can do these things, I went to the teacher recruitment fair, because I taught 43 years, wanted to see, and 91 people were there. And it was so cool that there was young people there, because you hear all this stuff. I mean, there was a lot of young people there, and it was so well organized. So I want to give a shout out to Jason Taylor, Krista Nelson, and Nora Hoover, and all their staff, because it was very well organized. And as I texted the board, it was very uplifting. I was CG proud. So good stuff. Thank you.
And no fair answering all the history questions at trivia night.
We did pretty good. We were hurting on some others.
Mr. Daniels.
I don't think I can top that, so I don't have anything tonight.
I don't know that I can top that, but Johnson County Redevelopment Commission, I'm the non-voting advisory school board member. They are moving forward and proceeding with several projects along the I-69 corridor. Several exciting projects through there, so keep an eye out for new developments and construction along there. And with that's going to have to come some road improvements and infrastructure improvements all along through there, and in an area that's probably been neglected for quite a while. So,
I do have one other thing. Dr. Long, you'd like to share a little bit about Tall Cop coming, the seminar?
Yeah. I wish I'd have brought the ring up.
On March 2nd, we're very fortunate to have a nationally recognized speaker. He goes by the nomenclature, I guess. Tall Cop Says Stop, and he's going to work with our staff during the day, and then at night have a work session, and really with any parent or anybody in the community. We've opened it up to all of Johnson County. He'd love to have a full house in there and just talk about current drug trends, and all the stuff that's going on with the vaping and different drugs that are available to our kids and in particular the community. He'll come early, drive around the community and kind of get a sense, and so he gears his presentation towards our community. But he'll be here March 2nd. Stacy's done a really nice job of putting something on our website. He would like to have us RSVP, so it's important that you use the QR code and RSVP. I think the last time Stacy told me we were over 125 or we're over 200 now. So that's really good, and I know we shared that when we went to the Johnson County School Safety Commission. We shared that with all the representatives there, and we're going to share it with the Indiana Department of Education, the Safe Schools Academy. So we're going to try to get the word out, and this is a great opportunity for us, and we're really excited to have him come here.
I was excited about this when I heard about it as well. This is a continuation of Dr. Long's efforts to ensure we're a leader in school safety and security, and this is kind of the next evolution of our safety and security practices. So I want to thank Dr. Long for that effort. I want to thank the board. It's been a long day. We started at 2 o'clock today. So with that, we are adjourned.
Thank you.